Hello and welcome back to Anglesey for day 2 of the CFT Services XR Challenge. We had bright sunny skies for yesterday's race, but the weather has taken a turn for the worse and a real challenge lies ahead for the drivers in today's 2 races.
The first race of the weekend was action-packed, but it was Johnny Van Jones who kept his cool to win the race. A great start to the event in his quest to become champion of Anglesey. The blue XR2 of Steve Paul and the similar red car of Craig Brookfield had both led, with Paul eventually coming home second after this grassy moment for Brookfield at 2/3 race distance. The more modern Fiesta ST of Michael Ellis had a solid drive through to 4th, with the XR2 of Michael Heath charging through the field after he dropped to the back on lap 1. This move on Steve McMurray sealing 5th place in the closing stages. And there were more than 1 or 2 moments in the race. Andrew Roach span, then Tony Rudd went wide onto the grass before getting involved with this collision with the number 3 car of Pete Lancaster. But the most spectacular crash came right at the end as Steve Clapton barrel rolled his Fiesta. It brought out the red flags, but happily Steve was completely okay. The car though was a wreck and it looked like being the end of his weekend. However, as the rain rolled off the coast for day 2 of the event, Steve reappeared in a different car borrowed from fellow driver Chris Purcell after driving several hundred miles to collect the car. A great effort to get back on the grid. They're all here to try and win the title of Champion of Anglesey, one of the highlights of the year for a championship which these days features 3 different classes.
The XR2s and the XR3s are becoming like a classic type of championship now, but to keep it alive we felt that we needed to bring in a more modern car, so that's why we've introduced the ST.
The way you've structured the classes, they're actually all very evenly matched around here this weekend.
They are. Originally, the original Fiesta ST used to run on slicks in the National Championship, and that makes that car far too fast for this class. So what we've done this year, we've made sure that the Fiesta ST runs on Yokohama AO48 tyres, so all the classes now are very close. The XR2 is a very light car, but not a great deal of power. The XR3 gives a little bit more power, but it's a bit heavier. And the Fiesta ST is a very heavy car, but has lots of power, so that's why they're all fairly equal.
Part of David's role is to help and sometimes gently guide this group of fast but friendly drivers.
Do the drivers behave? They do what you tell them to do?
Sometimes, yes. I've got to admit that the atmosphere we have within the paddock and on track, I think it's one of the best in any championship in this country. We get on, it's a family atmosphere. Kids, families come along and they really do enjoy themselves on the track and off the track.
It's good, they're friendly, it's everybody knows each other and they've been together for years and there's very little dirty driving. The children come to the circuits, the wives come to the circuits, so you know it keeps it as a family championship. There's no prima donnas out there.
All set then, ready for race 2. Having won race 1, Johnny Van Jones is on pole position. Steve Paul alongside him. You're on board with Michael Ellis from the 2nd row of the grid as the race gets underway in wet conditions here at Anglesey. They charge towards the first corner on board with Ellis, and I think he's got into 3rd place ahead of Craig Brookfield. He's right on the right rear corner of Johnny Van Jones. Into the lead has gone Steve Paul. In the blue XR2, they break for the banking into this right-hand corner, and look how wet it is there. Brookfield is coming under attack from Michael Heath as well, who's made a decent start to this race. On board now with the number 4 car of Andrew Lenny, starting from 12th on the grid, but he's made a decent start to the race. He's on the tail of Stephen McMurray, and to the left there you can see the number 21 car of Jason Hennifer, trying to squeeze up the inside on the way into Church Corner here, up into 4th gear in a moment, drops the clutch and I think he's gone through. This is the onboard view from the Craig Brookfield car. He's dropped to 4th place on board with the 3rd place car of Michael Ellis, coming now to attack, and he goes past the pair of them. They're 3 abreast, but it looks like with the onboard camera Michael Ellis has got the run here, and he'll have an advantage in the wet because this more modern ST has got ABS brakes. This is going to be very helpful at this part of the course as they slow the cars down. There he is, and he's in the lead, and Johnny Van Jones has gone into 2nd place. They've both got ahead of Steve Paul, so the early race leader has dropped to 3rd. think I saw Craig Brookfield was there in 4th place, so on board with the new leader on the way into Peel Corner. There he goes. Then it's Evan Jones, then it's Paul, then it's Craig Brookfield, but he's under attack now from Michael Heath. Michael Heath trying to go around the outside as they head down in towards the corkscrew. You're back on board with Andrew Lenny, and he's about to gain a place here at the inside of the number 88 car of Stephen McMurray. McMurray, who was very lively in the first race earlier the weekend in the dry conditions. McMurray now coming back at Andrew Lenny on the way down through the corkscrew, left, then right, and the XR2 gets ahead of the car which you're on board with, the Escort XR3. So they come through at the end of lap number 1. All change, and Steve Poole, I think, has dropped to 4th place now, having led very briefly at the start of the race. You're on board with the driver that's picked up the lead. He's never had an outright win in the championship. Let's see if he can do something about that here at Anglesey. He certainly made a great start to the race. And yes, Steve Poole has dropped down to 4th place because Michael Heath got past Brookfield, and unseen to us, he's also got ahead of Paul. So the number 18 car charging through. Now this is a replay of the start from onboard Andrew Lenny. Andrew didn't have a great first race. He had to come back through the order in the dry after a bit of a mishap early on, but this is his start. To the left you can see the number 62 car of Lee Bowron, which also makes a decent start. They're about to go into the braking zone for the right-hander at the banking, and look, he throws it around the outside of Tony Rudd, number 14, and gets a really good run through the first corner. So that's why Andrew Lenny has started to make up good places here at the start of the race in the number 4 car. Also with a decent start, that's Ralph Ferneyhoff, number 8, and he's now got ahead of Steve Poole. So Steve Poole going backwards in this race. Steve, one of the drivers coming into the weekend with the hope of becoming the champion of Anglesey, but not had a great start to the race. Back on board with Andrew Lenny, continues this battle with McMurray, and through he goes this time, and he's got the position. Another good scrap going on here a bit further back. Number 7, Peter Feuders, with number 35, Ron Lofstad on his tail. Number 10, he's in the mix near Oldham as well. You're on board with Peter Feuders now. Don't look in the mirrors, Peter, because there's a queue of about 5 cars all breathing down your neck. There's number 36, Craig Brookfield, who slipped back a bit at the start of this race. Ralph Ferneyhoff, number 8, just behind him. They've all managed to get ahead of Steve Poole. On board with Brookfield now, who managed to finish 3rd in the first race. Could have won it, but for a mistake, certainly would have finished possibly 2nd. He had a good old tussle with Steve Poole. This is the driver who finished 4th in the first race. He leads now, though. Michael Ellis making his way down through the gears, nice and smooth, and into the rocket chicane he goes, and he's extended his advantage over Evan Jones, and that is number 36, Craig Brookfield, the red car, losing a place to number 8, Ralph Ferneyhoff. Ralph with a good piece of outbraking on the way into Rocket, so that will get him up to 4th place. The white car of John Evan Jones leading his class is 2nd, then it's number 18, Michael Heath, then it's Ferneyhoff, then it's this car, Brookfield, and then behind them all, it's Steve Poole now. There's the leader making his way down through the corkscrew, and downhill section this, with wet conditions, very tricky under braking. The balance of the car shifting over the nose of the car. It's very easy for the rear to go light, so they have to be a bit careful, a bit tiptoey down that part of the course. Out of the last turn they go. The rest of the field streaming its way through, and there's Jason Hennifer. He's dropped back now. I think he's had a spin. Didn't see it, but he had a spin coming out of Church Corner. This looks like a move a bit further back from number 19, John Biddulph, going absolutely wing mirror to wing mirror with Neil Oldham on the way through Rocket, and through the second part of the chicane he's got through. That was one of the drivers who had misfortunes in race 1, because John Biddulph in the number 19 Fiesta got tuck out when Steve Clapton had his barrel roll at the end of the race. And here's a move from Andrew Lenny, or is trying to at least get alongside the number 62 car of Lee Bowron. Squeezes out the inside and through he goes, threading the eye of a needle that was. Spectators are brave, aren't they, watching this race in these conditions? But they're enjoying the action that they're seeing so far. Michael Ellis leading the way. There's a 2nd place car, number 16, John Evan Jones, leading the XR3 I-Class, and the XR2 of Michael Heath, number 18, looks to the inside on the way into Peel Corner and goes through. So it's up to 2nd place now for Michael Heath. Michael had a great charging drive through the order in race 1, and he's done plenty more overtaking here as well. And there's the number 3 car, Pete Lancaster, which had a good start to the race, but he struggled a bit. He slipped there, almost spinning in front of the John Evan Jones car, which is about to lap it. So number 16 being lapped, Pete Lancaster. So perhaps a mishap somewhere that we didn't see. Back on board with Andrew Lenny, continuing his charge. He's on the tail of Steve Poole now. And that is the number 6 car of Jack Minshaw. Good to see Jack back out. Snapped the rear axle in qualifying and never got to take part in race 1, but they fixed the car and he's back out as Andrew Lenny now drafts past the number 66 car of Steve Poole. So Steve, having finished 2nd in race 1, going backwards, and look at this, around the outside of number 3 Pete Lancaster, the car they're all lapping. Pete tries to squeeze back up the inside, Probably didn't expect Andrew to come from that far back. That was super brave. He wasn't hanging around, and it's got Andrew Lenny onto the tail of the lead group. The lead has gone through. Ellis, there is Heath in second. There's the number 16 car of Ifan Joan in third, and it's Fernie Hoff in fourth. Brookfield running in fifth place, and up into sixth place, the black and white car. Just a glimpse of him there. Here's the onboard from the same car of Andrew Lenny. So he's ahead of Steve Poole. Steve down to seventh place. And he's on the tail now of Craig Brookfield. So the black and white Escort, there it is, number 4, charging through from 12th on the grid, from the 6th row of the grid, trying to get himself now up into the top 5. Fernie Hoff just ahead, 2 places ahead, looked like he was slipping a bit. You're on board with Craig Brookfield, and he's the man in the red, number 36 Fiesta, who has got this man, Andrew Lenny, on his tail as they go through the first corner. Right-hand corner coming up, the hairpin, sweeps to the inside, late on the brakes, almost runs into the back of Fernie Hoff. Just about stopped the car in time, and a good move from Andrew Lenny to move up yet another place. He's absolutely revelling in these wet conditions, and his next target is Ralph Fernie Hoff. As the number 19 car of John Biddulph, he's continuing his progress up from the back of the grid. That's number 35, Ron Lofstadt now. He's got ahead of number 7, Peter Feuders, and Peter has still got number 10, Neil Oldham, breathing down his neck, though, as they go at a peel over the crest of the brown down through the curbs. And Andrew Lenny now is on the tail of Ralph Fernie Hoff on the way into Rocket. Fernie Hoff, number 8, running wide, 2 wheels off the track, just about scrambles it back onto the racing line. See just how slippy it is. The rain worsening each and every lap, and just behind, look, this is number 36 Craig Brookfield. He's dropped back down the order, and he's coming under attack now from Steve Poole. Steve got alongside and couldn't find a way through. Now he tries to get through on the way out of the corner. Those two wheel to wheel. Back on board with Andrew Lenny, trying to get past Fernie Hoff. He's done it, I think, through the first parts of the corkscrew. Yes, he's got through. So it's a great drive this from Andrew Lenny. There's number 88, the orange car of Steve McMurray. Number 14, Tony Red just behind him. The pair of them running in the tail end of the top 10. Looking for more decent points. Through they come then. Pretty dark and dismal day here, but they're enjoying themselves on the track. Great fun. Some racing drivers love racing in these conditions. I suspect this man does. Michael Ellis got into the lead fairly quickly, and he's just got gradually further and further away from the rest of them. There's the number 4 car of Andrew Lenny. To the top 4 now. Oh, spin for Poole. Just about recovers it. Great control there. The front wheel drive car spinning. And he had a big moment as he tried to get past Craig Brookfield. 2 more cars here going side by side. As number 62, Lee Boron, slows. Has he got a problem? Straight past him went Jason Hennifer. And I think Lee might have a problem because he looked pretty slow coming out of Rocket. There's the leader then, Michael Ellis. Michael Heath is in second. Johnny Fan Jones, he's on 3rd place but leading his class. Coming around the final corner, and there is the checkered flag, and Michael Ellis takes his first ever outright victory in the championship. So 2 races, 2 different winners so far this weekend here at the Champion of Anglesey. Michael Ellis, a delighted race victor. 2nd place goes to Michael Heath. 3rd place is John Ifan Jones. Andrew Lenny charging through to 4th. Craig Brookfield 5th, and Ralph Fernie Hoff rounds out the top 6.
I had a good run at the start, went well into the next straight and pulled away, so out of the trouble really. It was really tricky at the start, tyres warmed up a little bit more, and it got better. I wasn't looking in the mirrors, I was just going for it, trying to keep my line tidy and smooth, just to try and keep the pace up really.
Welcome back. With great affordable racing, the CFT Services Ford XR Challenge has a growing following, and one radio presenter in particular is a big fan.
What's brilliant is to see all the listenership getting really involved, because it's a grassroots level sport, and a bit like when we had the cornucopia of the Olympics, so much sport doesn't get the attention. It's either football or it's rugby or it's cricket, but with this it's something everybody can get involved in.
And it seems a really friendly paddock as well. If somebody's got a problem, 2 or 3 others are there bringing spare parts along for them.
There was an instance of that the other week at Alton Park. A chap had lost his sump plug, and the next minute another guy gets out of his car, disappears back to the pit lane, says, "I've got one for you, here you are." They got it fitted up, and off he went to the start line.
Right, top 7 reverse grid for race 3. So it puts Steve Paul on pole position alongside in number 8, Ralph Ferniehoff. They get underway. Conditions, if anything, even wetter, even worse than they were for the first race of the day. The second race of the weekend, that's Craig Brookfield, and flashing past the number 8 car of Ralph Ferniehoff. So he's made a decent start. Yes, there he is in second place in the red number 36 car. So 2 Fiestas in the lead of the race. Paul in second place, Brookfield, then it's Ferniehoff, then it's Michael Heath. So the top 4 places all filled by Fiestas. Then it was Johnny Van Jones in the white number 16 car, who had a decent start. He was 5th, I think, and Michael Ellis, who you're right on board with now, is just behind him, or trying to get alongside him. Through he goes, Michael Heath, from 6th up to 5th place, and just ahead, Michael Heath getting past Ralph Ferniehoff. And look at the spray, like somebody stood in front of him with a hose pipe. You can barely see where he's going. Looking around nervously, this is Craig Brookfield, down the gears into second and about to go through Rocket Chicane, and he's got Steve Paul alongside him, who's trying to go around the outside Brookfield. Paul had already got the lead and just about defended it safely, but Craig Brookfield now gives him a little gentle kiss on the rear bumper as they come out of the corner. Paul doesn't like that, tries to come across, but the door is now open on the way to the next turn at Peel Corner, and Brookfield is through. New race leader then, here he is on board with him now, just checking the mirrors to make sure he's through, but he is. They drop downhill through the corkscrew pool down to second place. So having won the earlier race, he's had to start 7th this time, Michael Ellis. And he's on the attack, but this car was very, very quick in the wet conditions. Mind you, so was this one. Michael Heath, a great drive through to take second place. Michael's had a bit of a storming weekend so far. Hasn't quite got the win yet, but maybe one is on the cards. Somebody else that's had a good start to this race, picking up a few positions on the first lap. 63, Terry Callagher. Incredibly wet, lots of surface water here. Craig Brookfield leads at the end of lap 1 on the way into the banking. Steve Paul, it's a fairly appropriate name for this sort of weather, is in second place, and Michael Heath rounding out the top 3. Now Steve Paul really needs to win his class, and to do that he'll need to win the race outright to have a chance of getting enough points to be champion of Anglesey. And now you've got Michael Ellis on the attack, looking to go up the inside on the way into Rocket. Has he done it? There's the leader, Brookfield. Then it should be Paul, already dropping back quite a lot. Then it's Michael Heath. Yes, then it's Ellis there in 4th place. So he has got ahead of Ralph Ferniehoff in the number 8 car. Ferniehoff then has just dropped back a bit, having started on the front row. This reverse grid, he's dropped back to 5th place. He's on board with Peter Feuders, who's coming from a bit further down the order in the number 7 XR3i. And that's Pete Lancaster, who had problems in the second race, has had to come from near the back of the grid, but that was a great piece of outbraking from the number 3 Fiesta driver. Right, there's Johnny Van Jones. He's in the top 6, but he's leading his class. And leading his class is going to be more than enough for him to score enough points to become champion of Anglesey, no matter what Steve Paul does. Those are the 2 most likely to win. Brookfield still has an outside mathematical chance as well. Peter Feuders on board with him now, working his way through the bottom of the corkscrew onto the grass and into a spin. I'm afraid that's number 19 losing the back end, and John Biddulph gets stuck on what is very wet, soggy grass now. Yellow flags come out. It might take a while to get that car off the grass. On board with Michael Ellis. He's now onto the tail of Michael Heath, and the race 2 winner trying to go through, and I think he's done it here. He's got the ABS brakes as well, as I mentioned earlier, whereas the older XR2s don't have that sophistication. So there he goes, slowing the car down in plenty of time for the chicane. Michael Heath, though, still snapping at his heels, the number 18 car, but he's had to concede the position, so that's a change for 3rd place. There's Ralph Ferniehoff, still running in 5th position. Johnny Van Jones still behind him in 6th place. John maybe just about thinking points now, rather than trying to charge up through the order and do anything too spectacular. Good little duel we've got going on here between number 35, Ron Lofstadt, and number 10, Neil Oldham. These 2 just outside the top 10, but they've been nose to tail for a lap or 2 now, and they were joined at the Hippin race 2 as well. Very evenly matched in these conditions. There's Terry Callagher, who's on his way to a top 10 finish here, having had a very good start to the race, number 63. Just got the spray coming off the tyres. Getting worse, isn't it? Lights on for the man in 2nd place, sorry, 3rd place, Michael Ellis. And he's now almost onto the tail of Steve Paul. The race leader, Craig Brookfield, was shot off, having a great drive, Craig. He's long since gone. On board with the 3rd place car, then Michael Ellis on the way into Church, and there's been a spin there. That's number 64, Steve Clapton, with his loaned car. Don't break it, Steve, it's not yours. Luckily, he didn't make any contact with the barriers. As we go back on board with Michael Ellis now, trying to squeeze through up the straight, has to back off, then goes for it again on the attack on the outside line, now on the way to Rocket Corner. But to the left, look, the number 66 Paul car holds on to the position, slams the door in his face. and through sheer determination hangs on to second position. Ellis there in third, and further back is another attack. This is Pete Lancaster. Oh, look at that! Almost like handbraking it, drifting it through the corners. Great control, and he actually takes the position as well, getting ahead of the 21 car of Hennifer. That's the leader going through. Craig Brookfield, untroubled. No stunts for him. And Peter Feuders now trying to go on the attack here. Getting a good run, and he's coming up to try and attack now the number 6 machine, which is the car that fell out as qualifying, Jack Minshaw. Got that repaired after it snapped the rear axle. Just look how difficult it is to see on the way into the corners, on the way into Rocket. Steaming up as well, misting up inside. There is Minshaw. He made it quite a few places in the second race, and he started this one pretty well as well. So Jack Minshaw, one to watch. That's the second place car of Steve Paul, running a little bit wide there on the way into the banking. So on the attack again comes Michael Ellis, but he couldn't get the power down quickly enough and couldn't take advantage. There's Tony Rudd. He's had a solid weekend. Quite a lively first race he had, getting involved in a couple of moments, but he's up into the top 10 again, and I think enjoying these wet conditions. Not too far off the tail of Johnny Fan Jones. So Tony Rudd running in 7th place. Back on board with the race leader, Craig Brookfield. There he goes, in a class of his own. He's been quick all weekend, but circumstances haven't quite given him the win. Maybe he's going to get it this time. If he does, it'll be 3 different winners from 3 races. There's Pete Lancaster continuing to march up the order from the back of the grid. Jason Hennifer now coming under attack from Lee Boron. Lee having to come from the back of the grid as well, after he failed to finish race 2 with the problem with the car, and he gets through. Jason Hennifer, former champion, or reigning champion, I should say, having a bit of a difficult weekend here at Anglesey. That's the onboard shot from Peter Feuders. There is Peter, and he's made up some positions from a little bit lower down on the grid as well, keeping it on the island. He's ahead of these two. He's moved away from them, and they're still nose to tail. Number 35, the blue car of Ron Lofstadt, the red car of number 10, Neil Oldham, been tied together for 4 or 5 laps now. There's Ralph Ferniehoff running in 5th place, Johnny Fan Jones just behind him in 6th, and only about half a second behind the pair of them. You've got number 14, Tony Rudd in 7th. There's Terry Kelleher, who is looking to get himself into the top 10. Here's this little scrap that we've been talking about coming through now. Neil Oldham tries to squeeze up the inside here onto the curbs, makes contact, and Ron Lofstadt is shoved into a half spin. And they're about to get lapped, because there's Craig Brookfield, number 36, the race leader, and that's the battle for second. 66, Steve Paul under attack from the ST, doing a great job to keep the more modern car behind him. 2 different classes. Even if Steve Paul loses the place, he'll still be second in his class. But here he comes. This is a replay on the way into Rocket. This is what we just saw. We saw them side by side. This is from Michael Ellis's point of view. He tried the outside line again, but Steve Paul, he's just gritting his teeth, sticking his elbows out and holding onto the inside line. Johnny Fan Jones, steady drive through to 6th place. Not his best result at the weekend, but it's going to be good enough to seal the Champion of Anglesey title, which the Welshman would dearly love to accomplish. Just look like this man might well be winning the race though, Craig Brookfield. Don't forget that Craig is in a bit of a hurry this weekend, because his second child is due today, in fact. Waiting for the call at any minute. Happily for him, he's been able to get through his races before rushing back home. Jack Minshaw, number 6 now, well into the top 10, with Pete Lancaster, number 3, also having a good drive through the order. Enjoying the conditions and deserving of some luck, those two. There's Johnny Fan Jones. There's Tony Rudd in 7th place, number 14. It's going to be his best run of the weekend. Craig Brookfield is almost home though. He's on the final lap of the race. He's coming up to lap number 7. Peter Feuders, the car which runs in 14th place. And Craig just looks smooth and serene. We haven't seen him slipping, haven't seen him locking up the brakes. He just looks very controlled, and that smooth style has been absolutely perfectly suited to these conditions. One more task though is to get past the back marker. On board with Peter Feuders. Peter has waved him through, left the door open, and that was good driving from the back marker to let the race leader through. So he's just got one more corner to deal with now. Craig Brookfield, he's on his way through the final turn. He goes, there's the checkered flag, and Craig Brookfield wins the final race of the weekend here at Anglesey. 3 different winners then. We've had Craig Brookfield winning that one by 1.4 seconds. Second place goes to Steve Paul. 3rd place goes to Michael Ellis. There they are. Great battle those two had. 4th place goes to Michael Heath. 5th is Ralph Ferniehoff. And 6th place and winning the Champion of Anglesey. Congratulations to our Class B winner, John Fan Jones.
Off to a cracking start and took it from there really. You know, got my head down and managed to open up a gap and managed to keep that gap. So it's basically just a matter of holding on and bringing it home then, to be honest.
After providing some great entertainment, Michael Heath is named XR2 driver of the meeting.
You've had a really good weekend all told, haven't you?
Yeah, very good. Very, very, very good. Couldn't have wished for it better, really.
Perhaps not so much the third race, but certainly the first two. You had battles with loads of people.
Everybody. Had a bit of a poor start in the first race, but come from the back and it paid dividends.
With some good drives through the order in the wet races, congratulations to Terry Callagher, who is named XR3 driver of the meeting. And after wrecking one car, driving hundreds of miles to borrow a spare, and coming back to contest races 2 and 3, Steve Clapton wins the Crown Windows Achievement Award. But of course the most important award goes to Johnny Jones, the new champion of Anglesey.
Something I didn't win last year, but this year it was something I was hoping for a little bit more than the year itself, to be honest, to be champion of Anglesey. So I'm glad we've done it.
Seems like you've all had a good time racing each other and just a really nice atmosphere to the championship.
It's been fantastic. I mean, the atmosphere in the paddock is always warm in the XRs. Everybody's very friendly, and it's been a fantastic weekend for that. I think it's just going to go from strength to strength now.
So many congratulations to John for a very successful weekend here at Anglesey. The CFT Services Sport XR Challenge has been great entertainment. Hope you've enjoyed it.